evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live. I'll be standing in for Peter J this week. He sends his apologies, but hopefully in a little while PJ Crows will be along to join us. But in the meantime, it's myself joined by Macca and Nikki. How you going, guys?
Yeah, very good, thanks, Phoenix.
You're very well.
That's good. Quite an eventful couple of days since the last round. A few things going on.
Oh, God. Do we have to talk about Collingwood? Or can we just pretend that hasn't gone on? Do we really give a shit?
Well, I don't particularly give a shit, but maybe someone does. Let's get right into Nikki's news, eh? What do you got for us, Nikki?
Well, I think the most important thing is, in terms of an injury, was such an innocuous kind of knock that Cripps got to his leg, and it's actually revealed a fracture, and he's out for the year. That is a huge blow to Carlton, and actually a huge blow to pretty much most of us that have liked watching the way he goes about it.
You saw the incident, didn't you, Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, it was a feral kick because he was just. Hunt was just aiming to keep the ball, but to actually cause a break, and it was high up, so that's a bit of an issue.
Yeah, when you said a knock, I thought it would have hurt like shit.
Oh yeah, I mean, then initially they thought it was a corky, which completely understandable, and up high on the calf, that's not somewhere you can kind of try and keep warm and get back out there. So it was very understandable as to why he was then out of the game. But to reveal that it actually caused a fracture is kind of like, whoa.
Yeah, unlucky for the lad. He'd been travelling well, and I guess they can put him on ice and load up again next year, or he might, assuming he stays at Carlton.
I presume he will. And then that kind of leads into, in that same game, there was another young gun who, whilst he is a good footballer, he's starting to get a reputation as a bit of a shit bloke in terms of Clayton Oliver. Now, what most people forget, they go, oh, he's so young, but we've had the diving incident, and people forget he's got a drink driving incident already, nice little black mark against him during the off-season. So he doesn't think things through well. And then he proved also on the weekend that he can't shut out the crowd. And the way he turned back and reacted to the fan, I would like to take to task pretty much most of the media who were going, those fans reached out to him. They were just standing up. They weren't really leaning forward more than anybody else I've ever seen. He actually came at them. Yes, there was a touch, but that was that fan just putting his hands up to brace. He didn't reach forward at all to do so. And the media are going, but he reached out to touch him. No, he didn't. It was just a normal reaction. Yeah, he said something that probably included a bit of a swear word and called him weak. But for Clayton Oliver to then turn around and actually threaten to kill the guy, I'm not going to blame the fan.
Yeah, but Nicky...
Clayton Oliver needs to pull his head in.
Well, I mean, I played footy and I can remember... I said worse than that. But the thing is, and I haven't played at AFL level, but in fairness to him, I mean, he's red-headed, he's fiery, and he's mouthed off. Okay, it's no real big deal.
What's hair got to do with it?
Nothing.
Mate, you've never stood a redhead. I hated standing redheads because they were all fire.
Macca, my son's a redhead.
Yeah, well, then he's probably bloody determined. They never give in, the bastards.
He's not a hot head, though.
Oh, I hated standing. They're just so hard to beat.
I've got two thoughts on this issue. First of all, I reckon he's under the pump a bit at the moment, Oliver. He's been essentially accused of diving, and we won't go back into whether that was a yes or a no. Copped a fair hammering in terms of that, and now he's under the spotlight again. So I hope he's getting good support from his club and his family and friends. But on the other side of the coin, I'm a bit nonplussed by the AFL not taking a harder line here, because Oliver has engaged the fan.
Yes.
And the problem I have with that is that in this day and age, it's a bit different to when you and I played Macca. People were, apart from Robbie Muir and a couple of others, they knew which side of the line to stay on. But crowd violence these days and inciting crowd violence these days is a much bigger issue. And I just thought that the AFL needed to be firmer in its response and, basically nipping that in the bud. And it's been a little bit more silent on the matter than what I would have hoped.
For me, it's sort of tagging into there should have been a greater discussion regarding Melbourne with what's gone on this year, because it's not just in isolation at that club. There's a number of things. And I think there needs to be a conversation regarding Melbourne.
Well, Melbourne have to address that themselves. Clearly they've gone for a harder edge, and that's fine. But
you got to know where the line is.
Yeah, but I think exactly. They need to maybe temper that and channel it in the right direction. And we're welcoming. Oh God, how's my hosting voice going? We're welcoming PJ. PJ, what do you reckon on this one? And g'day.
G'day, guys. I reckon last time I was on, we were discussing redheads, weren't we?
Probably.
Perhaps because I got a thing about him. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't see the incident close enough to really comment, to be honest.
All right, we'll move on then. What else you got, Nick?
Well, there's that other good bloke who's a bit of the one who Oliver seems to be channeling. Hodgie, why couldn't he announce his retirement immediately 4 weeks ago? That would have been nice. So he's come out and taken the opportunity because he plays 300 games this week. I did love the quote from him that when Juddy retired, Judd's words were, "Who would have thought that the fat slow bloke would still be playing?" Yeah,
exactly. Out of all of them, you had Luke Ball, Juddy, and Hodge. In that top three in that super draft, and he's the last man standing.
Yeah, I remember that was 2001, and Hawthorn traded off two very good players in Trent Crode and Luke McFarlane, key position players, to get that number one draft pick, and they even set up a committee with some outsides in there as well to make sure that they got the best value for their number one pick, and it was out of three players, obviously, as you just said, Phoenix, and I think the final decision was sort of influenced by I think it was the Geelong Falcons coach who said you'd be crazy if you don't go for this guy, and I think they made the right decision, and I know that Juddy's he won Brownlows, but I just love the way that Hodge plays footy.
They had Peter Hook on SEN today, and they asked him that very question, and the deciding factor, according to Peter Hook, was that they needed leadership at the club, and they picked up Sam Mitchell and Luke Hodge in that draft, and who became two great leaders of the club. So they certainly picked well from that point of view, because even though Luke Ball captained St Kilda and Juddy captained West Coast for a year, didn't he? You'd say that out of the three of those, Hodge was certainly the best leader.
He's a warrior, absolute warrior, and he's a man to follow.
What else is there, Nikki?
Well, then there was a few MRP incidents. There was the Tim Membry one, which I think we talked about on Sunday. That kind of got its due as we thought. I do find it quite hilarious that people are getting upset that Easton Wood got a game, and they all seem to forget that he already had two incidents, so the third one is automatically ace.
Yeah, but he's a Bulldogs player, you know. You got to treat him with kid gloves.
Quite right, Phoenix.
And tonight, Robbo on AFL 360, when he saw it, he goes, "You only hit him with an open, with a hand to the kidney area. What's so bad about that?" Didn't you guys have Lonergan on last week, who's lost a kidney, and how courageous he was? and how much it hurt when he got hit there. Did you forget about that? Oh, right, it's an Adelaide player, that's fine. And then you had Dunstall and Brown on the couch last night who kept going on, but Tex got found guilty, so why didn't he get a game? If you're going to comment on the tribunal, at least actually understand the tribunal rules. That would be a good idea. A few of these are going to get a Cockwomble nomination later on. And Jason Johannesson then signed a 5-year deal at the Bulldogs, which obviously they were hoping for either a win or this was their good news story that they followed up a loss with. So it had obviously been done beforehand. But I think you're right, Phoenix. He definitely has an issue regarding pressure. And that might need to be sorted.
I'm a bit dark on the Adelaide Footy Club for not using Johannesson's signing of a contract as evidence that there was no damage done to Johannesson at all. Because you can't sign a contract if you're concussed. So clearly he was clear-headed. He doesn't handle pressure. And it was interesting to hear Eddie Betts talking about what he said after the match to Johannesson, saying that, he sympathised with him and, you just have to keep playing your game, blah, 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 blah. So clearly it's noticeable to players on the field that Johannesson doesn't handle the tag.
And that says so much about Eddie, doesn't it?
Yeah, he should shut up. Let them sort themselves out.
No, Eddie really is one of the good blokes.
What else have we got?
I'm trying to think what else there was in the AFL. Well, yeah, I was just thinking if there was anything else before we lead into the overreaction of people taking things out of context, seeing one quote and deciding that the end of the world is nigh. Maybe listen to things first, consider things in context, and Jake Lever admitted that there has been an offer tabled by Adelaide, that he is currently in negotiations with the club, that he is happy where he is at the club, and he is happy to, and he said he had faith not only in his manager, but also in the club. You don't use those kind of words if you're thinking of going.
No, I guess I thought it was curious he had faith in the club. He can only mean by that he'll come up with the dough he wants.
Yeah, I think that's all it is that he we've started a bit lower, like we normally do, and then we're working our way up towards where it needs to go.
Yeah, I don't, and PJ, feel free to hop in here, but I don't like starting lower with your gun players.
I agree.
It depends on how much lower he started. By the reports in the media that it's quite high figures that are being pushed. Whether how much of a truth there is to that, I don't know.
Truthfully or not, they're saying that the Bulldogs have offered $8.25 a year for $8.50 a year for 5 years.
I think it's pretty clear that we've massively lowballed in. And
now, how's that pretty clear, PJ? We've got no idea.
To me, it seems pretty clear. I've got no inside information. I'm not claiming to. I just think that they would have been the ones on Lever's side would have been the ones to leak the Bulldogs offer. The language is basically the Crows have given me an offer and we're going to discuss it. That sort of seems to me like that we've given him an offer that's pretty low. And to put it mildly, I reckon he's probably a bit pissed off about it, and he wouldn't be publicly saying it, and they wouldn't be saying all this stuff if he was happy and we were pretty close. I think we're probably a fair way off. I don't think he's gone, but I think he's not very happy.
But you can't take. I can't understand how you can actually take that from what hasn't been said. I mean, nothing. He's still fronting up. He's still playing. Pike's words last week. Now, the coach would not have come out and talked about that without it being okayed by Lever.
I don't know about whether he's pissed off or not, but I think the rest of what PJ is pretty right, that we do have this, as Phoenix also said, we've got this horrible habit of starting off very, very low, and you can get people slightly offside if they think the offer is insulting when they know we know that they're getting really big figures offered to them if we offer something that's not somewhere in the ballpark. And I think in this case, if he's been offered $8.25, we just cannot afford to lose this guy. We have to go to whatever figure is necessary to hold him, in my opinion.
I've been in situations before with employers where they've not come to the party salary-wise, and you know that they're not coming to the party simply because you know what other people earn, you test the market, and the impact that it has on you is you lose faith in your employer and you start to cast your eyes elsewhere.
I've done that.
Yeah, I think we all have, and it's no different in professional sport. If you don't feel like you're being treated with value and respect by your club, and you know there's more money around, then you're going to start. You might not have even been thinking about looking beforehand, and then all of a sudden you think, well, shit, I wonder what else is around. Particularly if we're talking a couple of 100,000. And you're right, Macca, that is the danger. The danger is by lowballing that we actually plant a seed. And, we are surmising that we're lowballing, but I agree with PJ. I think if you read between the lines, there's no reason for the current rhetoric in public if Jake was comfortable with the number.
Well,
Yeah,
what rhetoric are you talking about?
Yeah, but I know what.
The leaking of other offers. There's been increasing media scuttlebutt about Lever, and whilst a lot of media types that will speculate, at the end of the day, they're speculating based on whispers that they get, and there haven't been any whispers up until the last probably 4 or 5 weeks, and over the last 4 or 5 weeks, those whispers have really grown, and I think even though a lot of those media pundits might not be on the money, there's certainly something there. There's obviously something there. Now, whether there's leaking coming from Jake's management to try and put some heat on Adelaide's number, or whether they're genuinely looking, who knows? But there is certainly activity there that I feel is unnecessary. And if you couple that with the fact that Tex took a pay cut, 3 weeks ago, it all of a sudden starts to paint a picture of, of list management issues at Adelaide, potentially.
Okay, Phoenix, if you're going on whispers from the media out of Victoria, you're saying that's where you're getting your concern from. So from about Thursday onwards last week, pretty much most of them all said about Lever, he's staying. They're pretty sure he's going to stay.
I understand that, and yet here we still are talking about it, and there's still whispers, and now Jake's felt compelled to come out and hold a press conference.
He didn't hold a press conference. It was just his regular, because he's got a gig with 5AA. That's his regular gig with 5AA.
Well,
it wasn't him coming out.
I saw footage of him talking to the media today. It wasn't just a 5AA interview.
The other thing he did
Where's
say on
that
5...
from?
Yeah,
I'm
Nicky,
pretty sure he talked to the media today.
Yeah, what is very important though, Nicky, one thing you haven't mentioned is that Lever did say, he said he had faith in the club and blah 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 and all that, and they said so we can expect a decision very soon or a signature soon or whatever. And he said,
no, Macca, I'll hold your fire.
Hang on.
No, because I know exactly what you're going to say. I've heard that particular piece. It's Phoenix and I were actually talking about this off air beforehand, and there are media outlets who are taking the snippets and put them around the wrong order.
I'm talking about what he said.
Yes.
Did
you actually listen to it?
I did, and he said that he didn't feel the need necessary to have it finalised before the finals.
But what did he say before that, Macca? What was the question directly before that?
You tell me, Nicky, seeing that you're doubting what I'm saying.
He was asked about it in terms of a timeline by Rowie, and he said, I don't want to put a timeline on it because the negotiations will take however long they need to take. Rowie then immediately asked him about the timeline. So you want it done before finals? That was not what he said. Rowie's tried to put a timeline on it. Lever has then tried to, instead of just saying to Rowie, you're a dipshit, you didn't hear what I just said, there's no timeline on it, and I don't want to put a timeline on it because things will take whatever they take. He tried to answer it kind of the way I heard it was he tried to be non-committal about it. He was basically saying, no, well, if you don't want it before finals or whatever. So he didn't word it that well, but I did not take it because it needs to be taken in context with the question that was asked directly beforehand, how he answered that, and then Rowie pushing back and ignoring what he said.
Well, you're essentially right in most of the things that were said. But
essentially right.
But you're casting a different meaning on it than it came through to me in the sense the point he's made, it was really clear, is he's not going to be pressurised into doing anything quickly.
So we shouldn't.
No,
that's not necessarily true, Nikki.
It's a decision about his life.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that why are we in this position where Jake now is still making a decision? This stuff earlier in the year, hang on, stop talking over people. Right, earlier in the year, the only thing that Jake was saying and the club was saying is we're waiting for the CBA to come out. Now, even before the CBA was finalised, 99% of the detail was known, and certainly the number was known. So the club certainly could have been engaging with the manager, saying, "Look, on the basis of this, it's probably going to be this." Now we're in a situation where the CBA was done a month ago, and Jake is now, quote unquote, in negotiations with the club. It may not get done until after finals. Right, the club should not be in this position. We're in this position with Jake, and we're in this position with Gov. And to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. And whilst what you're saying isn't right, but it's not right to say that. So he should take his time because he's had all year.
I'm actually going to back up something Donkey Magoo's just said in there and just refer to what you just said, Phoenix. He was waiting for the CBA. Agree. So what's now happened? He's now in a position to negotiate. He actually, didn't he say in the interview, Macca, that there has been the club's actually put something forward? So we've put something...
An offer has been tabled.
So now he's going back to have a chat with his manager and have a chat with his partner.
Do you think that's the first time that a number's been put in front of his manager? Because if you do, you're completely naive.
No, there might have been some discussions beforehand back and forth between the manager as to what the possibility is and what they were thinking, what we were thinking, etc. But this is the first time it's gone back in front of Jake. He's the one who has to agree to it, not his manager.
You're making an assumption there. You're making an assumption there.
I'm making an assumption, just like you did, that he waited for the CBA.
No, that was stated. That was stated. I'm not making an assumption. I'm saying that was stated. The rhetoric from the club is we're going to do it after the CBA. The rhetoric from Lever's camp was we're going to do it after the CBA.
Yeah.
So that wasn't. I wasn't making an assumption, Nick. That was fact. And my issue with that is that irrespective of the finalisation of the CBA, the number was known pretty much. It was conditioned, really, that we're holding that up. And you can't tell me that the club and the manager would not have been in discussions about what the likely number was going to be. And you can't tell me that Jake has said to his manager, I don't want to know about it until I have a definite number. There would have been discussions. And the problem that I have with the situation, and Jake may well re-sign and everyone's happy, and we are surmising here. But the problem that I have is that, again, because of our list management techniques, we are now left with two key young players that are unsigned going into the back end of a season where we're premiership contenders. And it doesn't matter what you say, that is a distraction, and the club should be working their list management strategies better in order to avoid these situations. Because history will tell you that there's only been one or two players in the last 5 years that have held off negotiations until the end of the year and then stayed. Most of the time
neither of our two have actually held off negotiations till the end of the year.
Well, Jake basically said as much.
No,
today.
he didn't. No,
Nikki,
he did not.
He said, I don't care if it happens till after the finals because, frankly, I don't want the distraction.
That's what he said.
But he also then said prior to that he didn't want to put a timeline on it. So that means it could get done earlier.
Look, said Nikki,
There's a way you can take that both ways. We are absolutely guessing. I'm guessing. You're guessing. There's no way we can say which way, one way or the other. Yes, we're getting whispers from the media, but they're pushing a barrow of one of the best young defenders going back home to Victoria. This is the media which is based out of Victoria, and that's what they love to do.
But
That
Nikki,
sells them paper, and that sells them paper in Victoria. That gets some listeners in on SEN. That gets people calling in.
I just had a massive sense of deja vu because I reckon this is exactly the conversations we were having with Patrick Dangerfield.
we did.
Yeah, but he said completely different stuff to Dangerfield. Dangerfield did not even enter negotiations. Jake has entered negotiations with the club.
Yeah, but Nikki, I guess the situation is this, and this is where I'm backing Phoenix, is the fact that the longer it goes on, the more likely it is that the more doubt there is about him re-signing with us, put it that way. And the longer it goes on, that has to be true. And the situation is you do have 3 clubs at least from Victoria that are putting offers to him, and the longer it goes on, the more those offers will go up. And the more pressure that puts on us to try and meet it. And the point is, if he's got an offer now of, say, $825, we should be offering him $700 or $725 or something which is close enough so that we can close the deal and get it done very quickly.
I think it's
Correct.
pretty, with all the surmising that we're doing, because none of us really know, it's pretty obvious at the moment that they're poles apart. The club and Lever are poles apart.
That's right. Otherwise, it would be signed. And then there wouldn't be any distraction for Jake.
No,
for finals.
not if they're still arguing over some stuff. They could
But
be
it's
close. They could actually be close, but maybe he wants a little bit more. So that doesn't mean poles apart.
You would
They could-
imagine,
was
you
really-
would
that's
imagine
just-
with the CBA that the
You're
only
just
thing that
making
was,
a guess.
Yeah, but you would imagine that with the CBA, waiting for the CBA was all about the money. So you would
Yeah.
think that term and conditions would have been pretty much already decided, and it was simply a matter of what's the dollar.
Or what is it if maybe we want longer?
Yeah, but they would have already had those 2 scenarios sorted out. If it's 3 years, then it's $650. If it's 5 years, then it's $600, or whatever the number is. You know, they would have had all that sorted
But that's
out.
now got to go to Jake to make the decision.
And the fact that he is not, it's gone to Jake and he's gone, oh no, I don't like it. It probably backs up what PJ's saying, is that it's a fair way off.
No, but that's just exactly a guess. I could
No,
be right,
it's
and
not
so could he be right. That's
Yeah.
the thing is, we
Right,
are just
yeah.
absolutely guessing.
Yes, that's
We
right.
have
but
no idea.
You're putting forward your point of view, and I guess we're putting forward an opposing point of view, and it shows how you can interpret things differently, and you know, which makes it quite interesting. Going on my experience of signing contracts and sales and all the rest of it, you want to get something. If you really want something to sell, you want to put a contract in front of somebody that's going to get the job done. And the fact that we haven't put a contract in front of Jake that has compelled him to sign when he's considered a future captain of the club and hopefully a 10-year player for the club, to me is a worry, because I think there's really only, there's only 2 or 3 players in our club at the moment in that age group that really warrant, the moniker of, one club player, and Jake's certainly one of those 3. And I don't
Correct.
know why we're messing around. We should just put something in front of him that he can't refuse.
Correct.
So you're happy for him to be paid more than Tex and Sony and Talia?
Absolutely.
If that's what it
Absolutely.
takes, yes, of course.
Would you not be?
Depends on what they're being paid at, what level, because I don't quite know.
Well, Tex took a pay cut and he was only on
Yeah, he did.
$750 anyway. So I reckon he might be down to about $6. We know that Eddie's on 550. We know that Josh Jenkins got a perler, 550 for 5. We know that David McKay's been on 400 for 4.
No, see, the thing is, we actually don't know those numbers.
We do know
That's
those
what,
numbers.
No, that's what the media said they are, but we don't know whether those numbers are actual truth.
I know that Eddie's
Because
right.
we don't have the system like in the US where the contracts are public.
Right, it's pretty widely accepted.
It's accepted.
Yeah.
Because somebody said it was so.
Or not somebody, everybody. Everyone who would know, because media managers talk with player managers, so, they're going to be around the mark. They're not just going to pull a number out of their arse, Nicky. These guys talk. Liam Pickering's on bloody SEN every week. Do you think he doesn't talk to those blokes?
Yeah, he does talk to those blokes, but he also lies to them. He will release stuff in order to get better deals for his own players.
I'm sure he does, but he would probably also be pretty much around the mark. And he's not the only player manager. Look, the media have quoted 550 for 5 for Jenkins, and that's been accepted. So let's just run with that as being, plus or minus 50 grand, So if we've given Josh Jenkins, 550 over 5, then I don't see any problem in giving a 21-year-old who's got champion written all over him and a future club captain a fat check to keep him.
I'd certainly go up in the 700s if necessary.
Definitely. Brad Crouch is, again, we're talking about the speculation, Nicky, but if he was 4 years for $500,000, let's say we've offered Jake 550 for 4, he'd look at that and just go, what?
I think it's highly unlikely that's what we've offered.
Okay.
Well, it can't be very tasty because he hasn't signed the thing.
One thing that I think we could go on forever because we're opposing
we need to
opinions. And I think we better move on.
Keep going, Mako. Make your point and then we'll move on.
No, I've got no point to make. I reckon that, we'd thrash that to death. And I don't know whether Nicky's got anything more to offer.
Well, for what it's worth, just to round out the discussion, 2 things. The sources that we have available to us still suggest that Jake's going to stay after all that. And I noticed a tweet online this evening earlier on suggesting that the reason Jake is holding off on signing is because he's put an exclusivity clause in his contract to do exclusive media with Crowcast.
Oh, definitely.
And he's refusing to budge until the footy club actually agree to that. So fair play, and it's now up to John Reid just to accept that and allow Jake to be our ongoing special guest.
not John Reid, Justin Reid.
Justin Reid.
Yeah,
John
Justin Reid.
Reid,
Yeah, we don't want John involved.
Well, John's probably in the background there going, "Yeah, bloody hell, come on, Justin."
John to do the side deal with us.
Yeah.
Why do you think Justin lives in Melbourne?
Get the Balfours out. All right, what else you got before we move on, Nick?
No, I think that was the big one.
Done and dusted.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's have now. It's the 3 of us plus PJ again, so let's keep our thoughts on the Bulldogs game fairly quick. PJ, I might throw it to you just to get another view on what you thought of the game on the weekend. Yeah,
well, I didn't actually see the game until about 11 p.m. that night. I had a bit of internal flooding in the house as I was about to leave to go to the footy, so everything's all fine now. But completely missed the game. Was sorting all that out during the game, and could only flick a couple of scores, so I missed the actual live game. But watched the replay that night, and I was very surprised. I was probably more surprised at how poor the Bulldogs were in the second half. But overall, very, very happy. Had a fair bit of grunt in the team, which we haven't had, and probably maybe turned a bit of a corner.
Now, I know I'm going to ask you a controversial question here, PJ, but do you think that Thompson added any of that grunt at all?
No.
There was a pause there. There was a pause there, PJ.
And he certainly didn't around the ground. He may have in the centre square.
Yeah, I think... No, he didn't, basically. And we should... They made a mistake with that, I think, but I don't know. I still don't buy the whole Greenwood really needing a rest sort of thing because he was an emergency and all that. But I don't know. I suppose it was the right decision in the end, wasn't it? Because we won by 10 goals. But I'm hoping that Hugh will come back in this week. But I don't think they'll drop Thompson straight away.
I think Greenwood's a certainty to come back in, but I think you're right about the Thompson thing too.
Yeah.
I think that Miller will get the rest this week.
What do you reckon, Nikki? Because it's 3 votes that Tomo stays in this week.
Well, we'll find out on Thursday.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think he will get dropped.
Right, okay. For a direct swap for Greenwood?
Yep.
Well, I heard...
And if you listen to Clark yesterday...
I did hear him.
Yeah, and he was asked about Miller, and he talked about the thing everybody hates is non-statistical stuff. So Miller is staying in the team. Yeah,
but he also didn't totally negate the idea of him having a rest either.
Well, I think we definitely need his run against Melbourne.
Oh, look, we could. I don't think we could do much worse with giving the Gooch another run. Miller is not giving us much. Let's be honest.
I totally agree. You got the situation that we're playing up in Darwin. The humidity is very high up there. The ground gets very wet and slippery as the game goes on. And I remember from watching past games up there, it's just a real slog in the second half of those games. And that's not really Miller's conditions anyhow. So I don't think he would be missed if he didn't play. And probably Thompson, they might run his pace at times.
So just a show of hands to round out this very brief summary of the Bulldogs game. The question is, what was more influential, our good play or the Bulldogs falling off a cliff after half-time? Macca?
Well, I thought that the one thing we did right for the game, wet conditions. We basically played the basics of the game, I thought, and we didn't get too fancy.
Didn't ask you for a bloody essay. I basically just said, was it us playing good or was it the Bulldogs playing shit?
I thought that we played well, and the better we played, the more their confidence stood away and they played shit. So it was a bit of a combination of both.
That's ridiculous. You're going to get a bloody rest in a minute. That was pretty non-statistical. Nikki, what do you reckon?
Well, I'm obviously going to get a rest again because that's the same thing I was going to say, was that, as I said last Tuesday, the Bulldogs aren't that good, but we did play well. And as there's been noted that we changed things up just that little bit at the start of the third quarter, and it just clicked, and they just couldn't go with us. So it was a good play combined with, and they just fell off the cliff after that.
That's it. You're out too. PJ, what do you reckon? It could be just you and me next week.
We played 4 quarters of intense football. They played 2.
Exactly right.
It's the same bloody thing. What are you talking about?
No, it's not, because
Yes,
he's basically saying it was because they fell off a cliff that we won by 10 goals.
Hang on, you just listened to what PJ just said. We
played 4 good quarters. They played 2.
That's exactly what we're saying.
No. You said it was a bit of this and a bit of that, and we play good wet weather, and I used to play football and bloody all this shit. 4 versus 2 quarters.
You are talking the same, and you're just putting in different words, and you're trying to cover up. You're trying to cover up.
You're out.
Don't tell the facts. Never use the facts, Phoenix.
Look, I'll let the listeners decide on that one, Macca. But let's move on. And we got the Dees coming up on Sunday. Is it Sunday or Saturday? Sunday, isn't it?
Saturday night.
Saturday night, bloody hell. And they're only just going. They've seemed to have hit a little bit of a wall, I reckon, Melbourne. Lost a couple of players, a little bit of stuff going around the club, as we talked about earlier. But still represents a danger game for us, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, they've lost 3 out the midfield, haven't they? The skipper, he's a very good player, and he's one that killed us last time. Jones, he's out as well, and the bug, he's not around either. So that's 3 pretty tough, hard players out of their side, and I'm not saying they're hopeless by any means. I think they'll still be a hard side to beat, but I think that makes it a lot easier for us to do that.
Yeah, Jones and Viney out is significant. I think they battled pretty hard against Carlton in a similar way to us. If we haven't learnt from last time against the Dees, then there's something wrong. But I think this week and next week against Geelong will determine how far we can go.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking as well, PJ. It's just what they've lost out of their midfield. They were the ones who kind of really got them up and going. And it was very interesting to watch that Carlton-Melbourne game. Carlton had played us the week before and they'd gone into a shutdown mode. They didn't even try that against Melbourne. And they let the play stay open, which I thought was really fascinating from Bolton, as to he was more worried about how we could get on the attack, and he wasn't that worried as much about Melbourne doing so, and he was happy to go head-to-head with them.
Well, we're probably more potent statistically, Nick. Maybe that was the reason.
Yeah, well, that start of the game, they just couldn't go with us. Once they did try to go head-to-head, and he just went, nope, shutting the shop straight away. I thought that was kind of fascinating. For me, they've got a decent defence, so I think Tex is going to... He's not going to be able to bully like he did last week, because he really does like those players who aren't that... who are a bit shorter than him. But they've got a decent defence. I think we, as PJ said, that we should have learnt from how we've played them last time. And if they try anything like that, we should have ways to counter it. And I think we've seen the last 2 weeks that we've been changing up our setups a bit to counteract our opposition, whereas that phase when we played Melbourne, we were backing in our system.
Yeah,
I don't think you can... sorry, go on, PJ.
Yeah, I agree with that spot on. I think in the Carlton and Bulldogs game, we've worked out ways to get Smith up higher and get him kicking from the wing. And I think if we can manage that again, then I think we'll do all right. That's a significant sign that we're on top, is when Smith's getting kicks on the wing.
It's a very good point, because our attacks become a lot deeper. And when attacks come in, say, 65 metres, and they're within, say, 25 metres of goal, that's when the backmen really start to shit themselves.
I wonder, because we've had a Melbourne supporter in the face-off thread on Big Footy, and he's kind of kept talking up Melksham as who was going to then man up on Lever, so he couldn't be a loose man. And then he's like, well, no, maybe he can go on to Ladd. And you had Bernie Vince tonight actually talking about, is he going to take Sloane? And he referenced that Melksham's actually been doing that role lately, not him. So who's Melksham going to stand? Sloane, Lever, Ladd, or Smith?
Thompson.
So he's going to play in the SNFL game. He's going to play for West Adelaide, is he?
That's right. Well, they could do it. Westies could do with some help. A couple of differences between the last time we played. Obviously, they've got a couple out in the mids that we've spoken about. They do have Gawn back in, and they do have Jesse Hogan back in from the previous time. So the perceived ruck dominance that we thought we were going to have last time we played them really didn't eventuate. And now this time Saucer's up against probably the best ruckman in the comp. No,
that was Carlton.
Sorry?
Yeah,
when he played Carlton, he was up against the best ruckman in the comp.
I'd still rate Gawn over Cruiser.
Yeah,
But
if you watched that game last on the weekend, Cruiser absolutely smashed Gawn, even worse than he smashed Jacobs.
Gawn's only a couple of games back, Max Gawn.
Yeah, Gawn is not quite there, as you say. But I think he is the best ruckman in the comp when he's at his best, but he's not at his best by a long way at the moment because he was out for so long. But Cruiser gave him one mother of a hiding.
Yeah, and he didn't just get him around the taps, he got him around the ground as well.
Yeah.
Gawn couldn't go with him.
Gawn is mobile around the ground, though.
Yeah, he is, but he couldn't do it on the weekend. And they're coming off a 6-day break again.
But where Phoenix might prove to be right is the fact that Jacobs is not a jumper. Cruiser is jumping right over the top of people at the moment.
Yeah, good point, Macca.
And of course, they got Jesse Hogan up front. Now we're without Hardo, obviously. So you would imagine, I guess, that Talia goes to Hogan, but they've also got Pedersen, who's been playing up forward, and the other lad that I can't think of his name right now might maybe just stretch for height a little bit.
Mitch Hannon?
Yeah, I can't. You could be right. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
He's a left footer who's been kicking a few goals.
Yeah, so we might be a little bit stretched for height.
No, Talia will take whoever is the leading forward up the ground. That's who he takes. It's who's then matching up closer to goal. Is that going to be Otten? Because Otten's a lot taller than what people think. He's actually closer in height to Talia than he is to Kelly. Kelly's a lot shorter than he is. Kelly did a very good job against Stringer.
Stringer's no Hogan.
No, but once again, Hogan really didn't set the world on fire, looked really rusty, had trouble running out the game after his layoff that he's had back. He's still got some good skills, but a couple of the goals he got were more his teammates' good work and a bit of luck from him than that work that he's done previously. And you've forgotten 2 wins for us, McGovern and Knight.
What's that got to do with the defence?
No, but in terms of the game...
I was just talking about the defence just for now, because I just wonder whether we've got the right matchup down there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if we do pick a side and make any changes in that defence.
I wouldn't think so, because I think the defence has been playing pretty well. And Andy Otten certainly did all right last week. Lever outstanding. Talia very good. No, I think we can handle that. They've got a couple of small guys, but I'm not sure whether Garlett's playing or not. He's had hands. He is playing?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's very handy once the ball hits the ground. So I think we do have the players to hold them. I think the biggest problem we had against Melbourne last time when we played them here, I thought, was our mental attitude towards the game was atrocious. We just didn't have any killer instinct. We didn't have any desire not to be beaten. We weren't good enough mentally.
Yeah, I think we actually, even though they've got Gawn and Hogan in this time, I think we played better against a team with sort of more of a traditional lineup. Last time they had Pedersen in the ruck and they had a few other blokes forward and blokes back, and it just confused the shit out of us. We're not the smartest on-field team. And I reckon maybe this time with their 2 key mids out and probably more of a traditional setup, we can probably look at more playing our own style of game rather than following what they're doing for the whole game.
Good point.
Yeah, I think it's really key that we get enough use of the ball. Macca was right, in my opinion. The intensity last time we played them was the root of all evils against Melbourne, and they took a lot of contested marks inside forward 50 as a consequence. And I think, head to head, if we get enough of the ball out of stoppage and use it like we used it last week against the Bulldogs, then we have enough firepower. Did we have Jenkins last time we played them? I don't think we did we?
We did, but I think it was one of his first games back.
Maybe first game back.
Yeah,
he kicked a few, though, from memory.
It was the game he got dropped from.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Wait, what was that?
He got dropped after that game, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a really weak game.
Yeah,
he kicked 2.
He was typical of our attitude in that particular game, and and I know that's one of the few times I've seen Pikey get very angry, and he was obviously angry because we weren't intense enough. We weren't putting in enough into that game.
Yeah, so I think if the head's right, and you'd think there's no reason why it wouldn't be. I think our forwards are in form. Tex was a welcome return to form last week. JJ's fired up and he's hitting the ball and the contest nicely. Gov's got the X factor, and then we've got Eddie at the feet. Any factor of the game being held in Darwin, do you think, in the humidity?
I wouldn't think so. Because, I can't remember. One of our guys was on, Nicky. You might remember who said we train in that heat. It was Clark, wasn't it? We train in that heat all summer. So it's not something that the boys should really find that strange to do.
He's a stupid idiot then, because it's got a 40-degree day in Adelaide is nothing like a 30-degree humid day in Darwin.
No,
you are right. You're right.
I'm actually just looking at the Brisbane game because that was similar conditions with how humid that was, and it was quite a warm game as well. And it took us, it did take us a quarter to get used to it because it completely surprised the players. But from that quarter, we pretty much controlled that Brisbane game. And like our other wet weather games, our skills were pretty damn good in those conditions. We're also going up a day earlier as well. So I know the players are going to be around there on the Friday. So hopefully they can get just that little bit of touch and acclimatisation, and we won't do our normal, we need a quarter to get going.
For the Phoenix is right, it's bloody shocking. The humidity up there is something chronic. I remember staying up there and only walking 200 metres to a bloody to have my dinner, and I had wet clothes by the time I arrived there.
Most of the games I've watched up there almost play like wet or dewy games because there's so much moisture around.
And we like that.
Yeah, and the ground's MCG type dimensions too, which I think suits us as well.
It's a beautiful ground though, and
yeah.
The condition of the oval is beautiful, and it's, as you say, it's a largish oval. It's probably might be a little bit longer than the MCG, but it's wide. It's got wide wings, and so there's a lot of room on it.
So final thoughts, predictions. I reckon we get up in a tight one, but I'm not terribly confident.
I'm thinking about 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah, I reckon the 3 to 4, the goal mark our way.
Yeah, I think it's a real 50-50 game. If it all comes back to our midfield as normal, if our midfield breaks even or wins, we'll win the game. And I think this game and the Geelong game will tell us a lot about Sloane, Crouch, Douglas, and how they're going to go as we go forward. I think I already know how we're going to look as we push forward to the back end of the season, but it's going to show us a lot. And if we can win on Saturday night, I think we've definitely turned a corner.
Oh, and that's who else we didn't have last game, and we're going to have this game, Greenwood.
Well, you're making an assumption then.
I'm sure he'll be in.
I am too, but right as we speak. Oh dear. Yeah, it should be a tight one. It's the second of this little 3-game run that's so crucial. And obviously the third one is Geelong next week, and it's such a pity that we're backing up on a 6-day break coming back from bloody Darwin to face Geelong at home. But never mind.
That wasn't planned by the AFL at all.
Geelong have got an unbelievable run this year. They play all their hard games at home. Their last 6 games are 2 at the MCG and 4 at Skilled. And then their tough games are like this one coming up against us, where they've got a day's extra break and we're coming back from bloody Darwin. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anyway. All right, Nikki, let's round it out with a bit of a cockwomble.
With the cockwomble, well, that actually leads into one. Because I did find it interesting that on the couch, because they love Richmond so much, and that performance really gave them a lot of trouble in trying to talk up how wonderful Richmond are, they brought up the Champion Data little stats from the start of the year, which talked about who had the worst draw. And, of course, Richmond weren't up there. They were actually having one of the easiest draws, so they decided they wanted to ignore it. And I'm looking at it going, so there's a team that's currently top of the ladder and apparently had the hardest draw. So you guys can't talk about that team at all? No, it's just all about the Bulldogs. So that was quite amusing. But so the things I mentioned earlier about Dunstall and Brown having no idea about the tribunal but wanting to make comments on it. They were kind of a bit of a given. I think
I think, just before you move on though, I think that nomination is a bit harsh, Nikki, because that's implying that the rest of the media actually do know what they're talking about.
Good point.
A bit harsh
Very
to
good, very
single
good point.
couple out.
Well, here's somebody else in the media. One Lee Matthews, one of the greatest players of all time. Bernie Vince gets a little knock to the chest from Bryce Gibbs, and he goes down like a sack of potatoes. And Lee Matthews' comment is, I love that being part of the game. That's gamesmanship. You could actually hear the what the fuck looks in the pauses that happen in the rest of the commentary box that must have been turned towards Lee Matthews until finally, I think it's Adam Papilla, just actually turned to him and just went, it's called diving. Or it's called staging. So, yeah, Lee, that's not gamesmanship.
Isn't it interesting when past players just get to that tipping point where what they're saying is actually no longer relevant?
Yeah.
And Lee hit that mark a couple of years ago, I reckon, and they still wheel him out.
And Channel 7 still pay him.
Yeah, I agree. He's it seems a little bit beyond him now, I reckon.
He's joining Robert Walls.
Oh, God, yes. And Kevin Bartlett. But Bartlett's had that mantle for a very long time.
Nikki,
he's on for 3 hours every morning on SEN.
Oh, no.
Hardwick deserves a bit of a nomination for
that was going to be my next one. It was going to be a joint nomination of him and Kane, former teammates who really don't seem to like each other very much with their little spat that they had.
I thought Hardwick's reaction was absolutely ridiculous, though.
Which tells me there's possibly a little bit more something that's gone on in the background there.
I'm not Kane Corns' biggest fan, but I don't think he did anything wrong.
No, that's I'm with you. I'm not a fan of Kane Corns, but Kane Corns made a comment that, in his opinion, Richmond got a bit ahead of themselves, and then Hardwick's, I would like to meet him. I'd like to meet him. Blah blah blah, and it's just it almost sounded like I'll take him around the corner and beat him up, and it wasn't one of his finest moments, I don't think. And
he gave far too much oxygen to Kane.
Yeah,
Kane's been.
But that's what Canes want. He's
been doing that all year, and it really, really, all through my football following life, the one person that's really annoyed me has been Graham Corns, in a media sense.
Good judgment. Good judgment.
When Graham sort of faded away into the background, it was like, oh, thank God, no more Corns to worry about. Now we've got bloody Kane Corns, who's a chip off the old block, and he's getting an armchair ride from Hutchie, who obviously wants to promote him in the Croc media ranks. And I'm just thinking, there's going to be a Corns in my life until the day I die, and it really makes me sad.
Yeah, I'm sure they got Corns' young son will get trained too.
I actually did love a comment somebody made on the board that it's really bad when the best Corns now appears to be Chad. So that's why I kind of wanted to include Kane in the nomination. But I think we need to nominate our favourite person, and it's such a pity Peter J isn't here because it's the most punchable face in football, as he called it.
Luke Beveridge?
Dear old Lukey Beveridge in his after-match press conference.
Oh my God, it was like a soap opera.
Oh, it was, and his hypocrisy was on show to perfection when he was questioned by his bestest buddy ever, Michelangelo, about, JJ and the treatment he's been getting, and then the comment comes from Beveridge, oh, yeah, the umpires need to be looking at that and things that are off the play, they've got to pay that, and it's like, what did you instruct your players to do during the game to Charlie Cameron and other Adelaide players, Bevo? And then that vision at the end where he finished, where he went up to Rucci to have a quiet little word, that's not a good look.
It's unusual for a coach to engage directly with a reporter immediately after a press conference.
That was very odd. Very, very odd. Rucci was challenged about that on the radio, and his answer to that was it had nothing to do with that incident whatsoever. Because
what did it have to do with then?
He said it's a private matter, and I don't have to tell people what private matters are about.
What a cockwomble.
The other thing I don't like about Michelangelo Rucci is I reckon I've heard him say and seen him print it about 100 times that Lever should go and take the higher money.
Oh, didn't he actually say that to his face in the interview?
He did.
So should we give it a joint Rucci beverage?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, whatever. They're all dickheads this week.
There we go.
Very good. So
oh
who
my
was
God.
it again?
Beverage and Rucci.
Oh.
Peter's going to be impressed with us. I've looked at the time.
Hey, impressed with me, thank you. I'm the bloody host, and if it wasn't for me, we'd go do another Sunday night and go an hour and 20.
Me.
Shut up, Macca. You're out.
Sorry, Macca, I keep getting you in trouble.
All right, so let's round it off. How does Pete normally round it off? He normally throws
He throws
it to me. And
he throws it to you. Yeah.
That's right.
Aren't you glad you joined us, PJ?
Whenever I'm on, everything fucks up.
No, you haven't been listening hard enough. Nikki, would you like to do all the tags for us?
Well, we've got our Twitter account, which you know what that is, and there's a Facebook page, and go like us on iTunes and give us a comment, because that actually increases our ratings.
Where at, Nikki?
AFL Crowcast.
There we go. We're being a team here.
Yeah, don't forget we got Scorpus and myself on Thursday night with the preview show. And we'll have the main break show on Saturday with a special at the ground guest, Donkey Magoo. Donkey Magoo has kindly offered his services to be our halftime correspondent on the main break. So God knows how that's going to go, but I'm sure we'll make it work. But it'll be great to have someone at the ground telling us how it is. So
it can't be worse than tonight, us telling each other how it is.
Well, hopefully it's better than when I tried to broadcast from Adelaide Oval the other day and we got exactly 1 second worth of broadcast.
It was 1 second of quality, Phoenix.
Oh, jeez. Anyway, all right. So, so join us for the main break and then obviously the wrap again on Sunday night. Thanks very much, guys, for listening. Thanks, PJ, for dropping in and helping us out. Sorry, we kind of talked all over you there.
Nah, it's good to listen.
And Macca and Nikki, thanks as usual.
Yeah,
not a problem.
Actually, not you, Macca, only Nikki, all right?
Yeah, same to you.
Yeah, fair call.
And I was the one who was being argy-bargy just for fun tonight.
All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you on Thursday night. Good night.
Night all.
Night.